This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Shelagh Fogarty.
Hello, good afternoon to you. I want to talk about kindness this hour. Let's just leave the news to one side for a bit and talk about kindness. Prompted by these three boys from Liverpool, Stephen, Kenzie and Caden, who went out collecting money using the time-honoured method of penny for the guy around late October, early November. But they gave their proceeds immediately to a homeless man, and someone nearby took a picture of it and it went viral. You can see them at lbc.co.uk. I want your random acts of kindness, ladies and gentlemen. This hour, we're going to shine a light on kindness, and who better to help us do that than David Goodfellow, co-founder of the Kindness Offensive. David, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you too. Thank you very much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. And just before you give me the details of your what you did with your sort of desire to see more kindness, so just before we get on to that, let me remind people of the number, because I want people to ring in with the acts of kindness that either they themselves felt prompted to offer or were offered by other people to them. 0345 606 0973, the number to call. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. David, you were given an award for the Kindness Offensive, weren't you? Tell me what it was.
We were awarded a Points of Light Award by 10 Downing Street for organising a world record-breaking random act of kindness, giving away more gifts in one day than any other group in the history of man. Something to be proud of, I guess. There, it was very, very bewildering actually to hear from 10 Downing Street. Initially, we thought it was a bit of a gag when I was on the call. I thought for sure it was one of my mates around the corner who'd got one of their mates to pull my leg, as it were. But no, it turned out to be the real deal. And it was very nice, and a bit like what you're doing now, shining a light on something that's really good. For all of the pitfalls of the office of Prime Minister, and there are many of them, the fact they took some time out to say, hey, listen, there's some kindness going on over here, and that is actually worthy of a bit of attention, I think is to their credit. A lot of society is focused on unauthentic interactions, I guess, and things like compassion and selflessness and kindness get marginalised. So more power to all those who want to highlight it.
And what prompted it in you? What made you look at the world? I suppose your surname is so apt, it's unbelievable, Goodfellow. What prompted you, Goodfellow, to look at the world and think, right, it needs more kindness and I can offer it?
It started off, the Kindness Offensive, as I guess something of a kitchen room, coffee table discussion amongst friends about whether or not being kind was something that was actually worth doing. Do good guys always finish last or not? So we devised a very unscientific, kind of hands-on experiment. We decided we were going to go out and be as kind as we could one afternoon, see how it felt, see what the repercussions were. And a kind of huge amount of momentum and gravity kind of went around those acts, a bit like these kids that you're highlighting today. Something quite simple as reaching out to another human being can have this huge effect. And it did with us. Suddenly we went from being 4 guys to being 40 guys to being 400 to where we are today with well over 6,000 members and buildings across London doing all kinds of random acts of kindness on a daily basis.
And, cruel psychopaths aside, we are built for kindness, aren't we? We're built to give it and we're built to receive it.
Well, yeah, I think cruel psychopaths aside, I think it's a good place to start with that. I think, the rotten apples get given a lot more kind of headline space than they deserve, to be honest. And I think things like compassion, selflessness, kindness, these are very basic, and they're in the fabric of the human endeavour. And all of our great accomplishments have generally come from collaboration, sharing, cooperation. These are the fabric of what it is to be human. And, if society is becoming a bit of a dark place at the moment, it's because a lot of those things are being marginalised, and things like selfishness are being put forward as the ultimate good in many instances, where I think we all could listen to that voice inside and just know that perhaps that's not true, and maybe what these kids demonstrated with their actions actually has more value than, let's say, if they'd gone to the sweet shop and filled their bag full of sweets. And we all innately know that, and it is lovely that the news focuses on that and you're spending some time on that. But maybe it's time that we all focused on that a little bit more in the mass media and in our own lives, because there's a lot more good things and good traits in people than there are bad ones. And these psychopaths, these rotten apples, these people who would destroy the great works of man are very marginal compared to those who would create them.
Well, just nicer moments. And it can be the tiniest interaction. It doesn't have to be large scale, does it?
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, large-scale things tend to be made up of smaller interactions. It's a movement is made up of the countless acts of many people, most of whom go unseen. So yeah, most things are quite small, but they can be very significant in your personal life. We all only get to live one moment at a time, so how are you going to live your next moment? Is it going to be a joyful moment where you connect with another human being and do something of genuine value? Or is it going to be a vacuous waste where you do something that's basically meaningless, that gratifies you only for a very short time? That's your personal choice.
And how did you decide what to do? What kind of acts of kindness did the kindness offensive offer?
Well, initially, we decided to let other people decide. So we went out and asked the question, what can we do for you? And that's still something that we do, nearly 8-9 years later. That's still something at the heart of what we do. We let people lead an act of kindness. If someone has a need, maybe they need their walls painted, or, like the homeless guy the kids helped, he needed lunch, I'm guessing, you know what I mean? Or maybe a new pair of socks or something like that. So, we try to let, our acts of kindness be led by the desires and needs of the people we're trying to help. But then we also do kind of giant acts where we might go out on the streets with wrapped blenders and just hand out electrical goods or hand out toys to unsuspecting members of the public who haven't asked for anything. I think at the core of it, it's about having fun and realizing that these so-called selfless acts are actually quite selfish at their core.
Because you get a kick out of being kind.
Oh, listen, if we didn't get a kick out of being kind, if there wasn't a real kick to be had out of being kind, there probably wouldn't be such a thing as kindness. It's like that old thing from Joey on the old series Friends, challenging Phoebe, go out and try and do something nice and not feel good about it. It's almost impossible to do that. Go and try and be nice to someone and not feel the kickback from the world and feel better about yourself. It's a very enlightening, great, cool thing to do. And I think it needs more promotion, which is what the kindness offense is about. And, I think it's wonderful. These kids, often children display behaviors very naturally because they haven't been around long enough to have it kind of conditioned out of them, for lack of a better term. So let's all follow their lead. Next time you see a homeless person, maybe we're not collecting a penny for the guy, but we still have some money in our pocket. Let's help that guy out. No one chooses to be on the street like that. Everyone needs a bit of help now and then. Maybe it's your turn to help someone out. And,
okay.
Massive round of applause to these kids. What an inspiration to us all they've been.
David, good to talk to you. David Goodfellow, co-founder of the Kindness Offensive.